So what was the cultural environment of the time? Well, earlier today, I spoke to the former controller of BBC One, Michael Grade, who ran the channel while Jim Will Fix It was on, and the music journalist David Hepworth, about that culture of groupies in the 1970s and at the BBC. Can you begin by painting a picture of what show business, and particularly the BBC and television centre, was like in the 70s?
Not a lot different from today. You had a lot of very powerful stars on whom you relied to deliver the audiences and to entertain the nation one way or another. They're all human beings, fallible, probably with some secrets.
With groupies?
With
lots of groupies?
Particularly in the pop industry, yes. You would find, particularly with rock artists who would come in, pop artists come in to do Top of the Pops or some of the other shows. There were lots of shows in those days. It would be quite an operation, quite a security operation, and you'd try and keep it under a reasonable amount of control.
And the presenters in the same category to some degree as the artists, as big as celebrities?
Very much so. I mean, big stars were big stars, same as they are today. And in those days, I don't think it was a lot different. I don't think we quite had the fear of exposure that we have today. The press weren't quite as aggressive, kiss and tell, the sorts of things that get exposed today, the phony shake and all that stuff. You could keep things quiet more easily in those days, I think.
And David Hepworth, I mean, young girls, teenage girls were very much part of that, weren't they?
Well, teenage girls at that time wanted nothing more than to be in the audience at Top of the Pops. You know, Top of the Pops was the centre of this whole culture, I suppose. You know, it was the main pop show, and what every girl wanted to be was some kind of dancer or in the studio audience at Top of the Pops. And so, in Top of the Pops, oddly enough, at that time, was a very kind of sexual show. You know, the dancers, Legs and Co. and Pants people and the studio dancers. And very much part of it was these DJ figures who were slightly older than the audience.
A lot older.
Well, again, they varied. They varied, as they do now, I suppose. You know, standing there with their arms around, you know, a couple of girls plucked out of the audience. Very much part of the deal. It wasn't regarded as anything sinister at all. It was just part of the showbiz mix.
But was there a groupie culture around sex in the dressing room and taking these girls home after the show and all of that kind of thing as well?
Well, there's certainly a lot of rumours about it. I heard lots of rumours, but I never had anything confirmed at all. And you know, if people could be condemned out of rumours in the music business, the jails would be full many years ago.
Were you aware of this as well?
Not so much in the television studios, in the theatres and the concert venues. I think where there was virtually no security, just a stage door, and if an artist wanted to get a few groupies into the dressing room, quite a few incidences of that at the Palladium in shows I was involved with, live stage shows in the old days, no names, no back drill. But television studios, you're on a fast schedule, time is money, heavy security. It's quite difficult, I think, for any nonsense to be going on in dressing rooms.
And were you aware, as an executive, later on, of rumours around Jimmy Savile?
Fleetingly. I never heard anything that gave me cause to think we would need to investigate or do anything about it. No, but I think there were question marks, certainly. But this is, you know, the entertainment industry is awash on a sea of rumours. You know?
I mean, that's quite interesting in itself, though, isn't it? I mean, because do you think it's fair to say there was a different attitude towards teenage girls and older men in those days?
It wasn't seen as being as sinister as it's seen as being nowadays. You know, that you would have, you know, huge rock names who would have girlfriends who were 16, 17, or possibly even younger, and nobody would write about it. Nobody would particularly bother about it. You know, I don't think people are any better or worse now than they were then. Just that, you know, our hot issues are very different nowadays. The code of behaviour has changed.
My late father, Leslie Grade, brought Jerry Lee Lewis over for a tour in the late 50s. And the tour had to be cancelled because he'd brought with him, I think, his 12-year-old bride, which caused something of a sensation.
Was his cousin as well?
Was it his cousin? Well, that's the way they do things down there. But the tour had to be cancelled in the end. There was such a public outrage.
So do you think those days have gone? I mean, now that you know, everyone's on television at some point in time.
I think it's incredibly difficult to keep anything secret today. If you've got a dark and dirty secret, I think your chances of being exposed today are much, much, much greater than they were in the 70s, very much so. I wouldn't like anyone to get the idea that in the 70s, the people in authority in broadcasting were in any way permissive and turned a blind eye to anything of this nature, the sort of things we're talking about. It wasn't like that at all.
But if you say you heard rumours but nothing to really make you worry, well, what are you talking about then?
Just people would kind of cast aspersions in a casual conversation. You know, nobody's said, look, I know somebody who has been attacked by an artist in a way that is unacceptable. You'd immediately take action.
I would imagine that these days, if aspersions were being cast around an individual on telly, people would try and find out whether it's true. And
I think the particular case that's topical at the moment because of this documentary, I think there were quite a few attempts, as I understand it from reading the newspaper accounts, there have been quite a few attempts, including by the police, to get behind the allegations. So I can't say anyone ignored it.
So you think the idea of any sort of BBC cover-up is ludicrous?
I would know. I'm absolutely certain it's ludicrous.